Chapter 3, Technical Paragraphs. So, last week we looked at sentences logically. The next thing we're going to look at is turning the sentences into effective paragraphs. Like we did before, we are going to reduce our writing and editing strategies into some simple rules. And to do that, of course, we are going to follow our outline. So we have 5 topics. They're not really equally weighted. These are pretty easy to grasp, and we're going to focus on topic sentences and transitions. We want to look at these as signposts, and these signposts help readers understand how the sentences and the paragraphs fit together. So we want to remember to keep paragraphs short. We want to begin with a topic sentence. We want to make paragraphs unified, make paragraphs complete, and make the paragraphs cohesive. Also, this is just basic paragraph structure, aside from making them short. So when we make paragraphs, or keeping paragraphs short, sentences should average no more than 20 words. And again, this is average, so not every single sentence has to be 20 words. So please don't sit and feel like you have to count sentences. Paragraphs themselves should average no more than 7 lines, again, an average. In technical writing, 1-sentence paragraphs are perfectly legitimate. If longer, pare down your writing or break the sentence or paragraph in 2. So again, these are on average. So sometimes you might have a longer paragraph, but on average, you shouldn't. You want to begin paragraphs with a topic sentence. Keep in mind, it's a guideline, not an absolute rule, but generally speaking, you will have topic sentences. As with sentences, it's generally best to start with the subject. In a paragraph, this is called the topic. This orients the reader as to what the paragraph is about. This allows for quicker comprehension of the paragraph. It's easier to scan and find information in the report as a whole. So, here's an example. And I'll let you read through that on your own. But the topic sentence announces that this paragraph is about how a building's siding and floor plan affect passive solar control. The rest of the paragraph provides specifics. It gives you examples, descriptions, technical explanations, etymologies, all the other stuff. Here's another example. If you want to pause for a second and read that. Okay. Here, the introductory element here acts as a transition from the previous paragraph, and we'll get to transitions in a moment. But the topic sentence announces that this paragraph is about how a building's thermal mass affects passive solar control. The rest of the paragraph provides more specifics. It's got your examples, descriptions, technical explanations, etymologies, and everything else that you need for that paragraph. You want to take a look here? Pause and read. So here, the underlined section is your topic sentence. This announces that this paragraph is about how a building's furnishings affect passive solar control. The rest of the paragraph provides specifics. It's got examples, descriptions, explanations, etymology, and everything else. So at this point, it's pretty easy to see topic sentence makes that formal announcement. Hey, here's what we're going to be talking about. And everything else is what that topic sentence said it was going to be talking about. Another example. You can take a look. Here, the topic sentence announces that this paragraph is about how a property's landscaping affects passive solar control. So this says, hey, I'm going to talk about how a property's landscaping affects passive solar control. Then everything that follows relates back to that topic sentence. There's nothing in there that doesn't talk about that. So here, we're going to look at something a little different. Taking a look at these topic sentences. These are from the prior paragraphs. If you think back to those, they all kind of come together, and if you look at these topic sentences, these all demonstrate how when you use proper topic sentences, they can help the reader scan a document. So if you go back and if the reader were looking for something quickly, the proper transitions between paragraphs and sentences link together, and they show how the ideas in sentences and paragraphs can cohere and logically present an order to the reader. So these topic sentences have all come together to present a coherent idea to the reader, and they all link back to one another to form a coherent idea. So these all make sense together, and if the reader's trying to jump through quickly and locate an idea when they're looking at the larger document together, and I have an example of that I'll click over to in just a second, they can quickly eyeball these topic sentences and locate the paragraph that they're looking for. So let me jump over to it. So here, they can say, okay, where was that paragraph about what I was looking for? I want to look at landscaping. Where is that? And they can eyeball it and look for that topic sentence in their larger document. So not only are you having a coherent idea based on your topic sentences, but they can quickly use it in the paragraph. So this can help you see that, your headings, your subheadings, and your topic sentences can all work together to help readers find information in a document. And that's why, and that's how, they enhance the accessibility of a document. So that's why you want to keep in mind all of these different elements at play in technical writing. It's not just about what you're writing, but it's also about how you're presenting that information. The headings, subheadings, white space, topic sentences, all these are coming together to make things quick and easy for the reader. So I don't want to spend 45 minutes trying to go through fine print and find something again. I want to quickly be able to scan this and find it as fast as I can. So let's think about how we can make every paragraph unified. And when we think about paragraphs, we want to think of them as a box of information. And when you think of that box of information, think about that topic sentence as the label. And you want to put everything in the box that is relevant to that label. Do not put anything in that box that's not relevant to the label. So if you're packing up your house and make a box and it says bedroom, anything in that box that says bedroom is going to have stuff for your bedroom. You're not going to throw pots and pans in there because you don't want to mix up bed sheets and pillows and stuff you keep on your nightstand in with pots and pans. No, you want to keep it all together. You want to keep the same stuff in the same box. Same thing with paragraphs. Don't put anything in your paragraph box that does not belong in that paragraph. So when everything in the paragraph is only about what that topic sentence promises that the reader will find there, then you have a unified paragraph. If it doesn't belong in that paragraph, if it's not labeled as such, put it somewhere else. And this is a good rule of thumb, and this is how it should be in general. This is just paragraph structure. So, the topic sentence announces the topic of the paragraph. There again, this is your label. Again, only information relevant to that topic belongs in that paragraph. Put information not relevant to the topic in a different paragraph or document. Remember, if it doesn't relate to this document, it probably shouldn't be in this document. So if it's not important to this topic, maybe it shouldn't be in this document. Our next idea is that we want to make sure every paragraph is complete. So put all the information to do with the topic sentence in the paragraph. Don't put some of it somewhere else. If the topic is complex and requires several paragraphs to explain, group those paragraphs under a clear descriptive heading. If a paragraph or a report section provides all the information necessary to make the reader understand the topic announced by that topic sentence or heading, then the paragraph or that report section is said to be complete. So that's fine. And that's the great thing about technical writing. You can use headings, you can use subheadings, and that's very helpful. So if there's too much information, narrow the topic sentence or use the paragraph to set up a series of more narrowly defined topics. And again, that's going to be your subsections. Make every paragraph cohesive. It's not enough to put all the right information into grammatically correct sentences, because the sentences also have to work well together. Their logical relationships have to be apparent to the reader. And we call that link, the way they work together, cohesion. So let's take a look at a paragraph that lacks cohesion. Go ahead and pause and really take a look at this. So this is a little too much for me to read, but I hope you took the time to read it. This paragraph is unified and complete. All the sentences are grammatically correct, but the sentences do not work well together because the reader has to figure out how the sentences and the ideas within them relate to one another. So the paragraph really lacks cohesion. It just doesn't hold together. So if it's revised, here's what we come up with. So if you want to pause it and take a look. So you notice the second paragraph has much better cohesion. It comes together so much better. When you were reading it, you saw that the information builds up slowly. It's logical. The relationship between the ideas is made clear. And writers use 3 strategies to achieve cohesion. So these are strategies you want to start to incorporate. Give a new reputation, transition words, and variegated sentence patterns. Given new repetition by referring readers back to what they know before introducing new material. The given new repetition guides the reader step by step through the development of a logical argument. So it ties new sentences into a framework of information that the reader has already become familiar with. And there's an example of this in your textbook on page 42. Here you can take a look at this. You can pause it if you like. I'm going to move on to number 2. Talk about transition words. I'm sure you've heard the words transitions before. There are way too many transition words and phrases to list. There's a partial list on page 43. Once you take a look at it, I'm sure you will have these come to mind. You're familiar with them. For example, however, in conclusion, although, as a result, additionally, and so on. Again, we're not looking for fancy words and phrases, so those that you're familiar with, use them. Here's how some transitions are used in our sample paragraph. Those are underlined. Because the give new repetitions already do a lot to clarify the logical relationships between ideas, you don't need to add transition words or phrases between every sentence. So please don't feel like you need to go through and add transitions with every single sentence. Again, less is more. It's just like people who like first, second, third, fourth, and it's like, oh no, we don't need to do it that much. Once every 3 or so sentences is usually adequate. Just go through, read, see what feels right to you. Don't be afraid to go with some feeling on this. And again, there's an example, I think page 43 in the book. Here's another example in which transition words establish a relationship in time. So it's time, sequence, and causation. And I'll give you a second to read it. So let's take another look at the topic sentences from the piece on thermal mass. If you note how transition words and phrases were used to create cohesion between paragraphs, here they are. So, now we'll move on to the variegated sentence patterns. It's a very fancy word. There are 4 grammatical types of sentences: simple sentences, coordinated sentences, subordinated sentences, and embedded sentences. Simple sentences provide no clue how the sentences relate to one another, other than by proximity. When they're strung in a row, they sound very choppy. So, we are experiencing an early spring. Rain is combining with melting snow. Extensive flooding is likely. So just short. Coordinating sentences. So these combine sentences using a coordinating conjunction to make the relationship clear. And, for, so, not yet, but, for. Use a comma before coordinating conjunctions. So these are longer sentences. We are experiencing an early spring, so rain is combining with melting snow. Extensive flooding is likely. Subordinated sentences. A subordinate clause is one that cannot stand by itself as a sentence. It is usually introduced by a subordinating conjunction such as because, whereas, even though. Because the early spring is combining rains with melting snow, extensive flooding is likely. So if you took part of that sentence and it couldn't stand on its own, it would become an incomplete sentence. That's what makes it subordinate. Embedded sentence. So an embedded sentence is one that has been turned into a phrase. Combining rain with melting snow, the early spring makes extensive flooding likely. If you are writing, you want to know those sentence types because you want to make sure that you're using different kinds of sentences in your writing. Too many simple sentences and your writing sounds completely unsophisticated. Too many coordinated sentences and they become too complex. Too many subordinated sentences and it, again, does not sound as complex as it needs to. So you really want to make sure you're using a variety of sentences, just like with any kind of writing. Make sure that you know what you're writing, make sure you know what the purpose of your writing is and the kinds of sentences you want to use. If you're writing directions, you want simple sentences. You don't necessarily want a lot of other types of sentences. Some coordinated sentences would be appropriate, but you're probably going to want to back off of the other kinds of sentences. So again, keep in mind what kind of sentence types you're going to want to incorporate into your writing. So in conclusion, readers need to have the logical relationships between your ideas clearly labeled for them. That's up to you. They're your ideas. So you need to make your logic clear for us. Those labels make things cohesive between sentences. You have a number of strategies to choose from to create cohesion. Given new repetition, transition words and phrases, variegated sentence patterns. You want to use them in combination. So we're putting together a pretty complex toolbox for your writing, but it sounds complex, but it's really pretty straightforward. A lot of this you've already learned. Most of this you already know. You just may not have names for it. So none of this is new for you. I promise it's not. You've heard all of this before. You've probably known all of it for a while. We're just learning proper labels for it. That's all. As usual, if you have any questions, please get in touch with me. Otherwise, have a good rest of your week.